morning. You have to forgive me in advance. I'm suffering from a very bad cold, and I have adjusted my presentation a little bit accordingly. But anyway, President Panseri, fellow members of the EDA, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to be here today to speak to you with regards to a particular subject that I've become very much involved in this last year. It's in a town called Milledgeville, and Milledgeville is located in central Georgia in the United States of America. Now, you may wonder why I, as a Scotsman, have ended up in Georgia. My wife is an American, and we now live in Milledgeville. I'm semi-retired, but not wanting to be doing nothing. I have found myself, what we would say in Scotland, a nice little number. This particular project is basically derived from the City of Milledgeville Planning Department. The Central State Hospital was once upon a time the largest mental institute in the world. It employed in the early 1920s up to 16,000 people, and it had 45,000 patients. It was one of these places, if you were admitted, you really never got out. And you may remember the movie, The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with Jack Nicholson. That basically was modeled on the Central State Hospital. Quite a scary place to be. It's still active as a hospital. They have one particular section which has 300 thereby patients, and they are some of the worst mental cases in America. Now, you may say, well, you know, when you look at what's going on between Mr. Obama and Mr. Romney, that they're all crazy, but believe me, it's their way. I love living in America, and it is a land of, still a land of opportunity. I was approached by the city planner of Milledgeville when he learned that I was involved in the demolition industry. And he asked me to look at the Central State Hospital, which stands on an overall campus of 1,960 acres. There are 202 buildings. Many of them are of historic interest. Now, in the United States, as you can appreciate, a building that is over 100 years old can be of great historic interest. The Central State Hospital was the brainchild of 5 physicians, 5 local physicians from the Milledgeville area. And it was their dream to create an institute that could treat all of the aspects of mental illness. It became very popular very quickly for the simple reason that in the 1800s, I should say that the first building was constructed in 1834. But it became very popular very quickly because in the 1800s, generally speaking through religion, there was a problem if you had, unfortunately, a member in your family who was mentally ill. Because of their strong religious beliefs, they believed that this was a curse on the family. And they actually took that poor soul and put them into institutions. And for $100 a year, in the early 1800s, you could put this member of your family who was perhaps mentally ill and just put them away to basically hide them away from other people. And this, for whatever reason, allowed the family to maintain what they felt was the right image. Anyway, as I say, I have rejigged my presentation a little bit, and I may skirt around some additional photographs. The historic buildings that we looked at are not what we, generally speaking, in Europe would say are particularly attractive. But, as I say, in the United States, over 100 years old, they do appreciate their history as such, and we are looking at a number of buildings to do facade retention and renovation. To give them an idea of what can be done with facade retention and renovation, we showed them some of our projects that we have done here in Europe. This particular job is in Aberdeen, it's not in Milledgeville. And it was really just to let them see the temporary structures that we could erect to retain facades, to allow for demolition to go on within the building itself, retaining the external walls. They liked the idea, and we are now working with them in such a way that, you know, hopefully, as we did in Aberdeen, the finished article in the building that you just was looking at is what you see now. So we sold the idea, and we have now been appointed. We have now been appointed the project manager for the whole project. This is the inner campus. The inner campus of the hospital has 48 historic buildings, and this sits on 300 acres. So what you're looking at just now is various buildings, substantial buildings, and we are focusing on one particular building, a building that has been worst affected by the elements. The hospital has been on a staged closure program since the 1960s. The policy for treating mental illness in the United States was changed, and they are now looking at putting people out into society, perhaps living in smaller care homes and so on and so forth, to try and integrate them back into society. And this is one of the reasons why buildings have been shut down. This is the Walker Building. The Walker Building is the first of the 48 buildings within the inner campus that we will be hopefully working on early next year when the appropriate funding comes through. Brick-built structure. The bricks are all made locally in Milledgeville. It's called the Macmillan brick. The Macmillans were a family of Scottish people who arrived in the States in the late 1700s, opened a brick-making facility, and I should tell you that in Georgia, the clay is very, very dense, and it's ideal for brick making. So all of the bricks are sun-dried bricks, and one of the proposals is, of course, to recycle as many bricks as we can. We have to do some hazardous material removal. There's asbestos, a lot less than what I envisaged. So we are fortunate that the asbestos that we have located is in very accessible locations, and the cost, therefore, is not going to be as great as we initially thought. These are just samples of the various in various locations from the building. We also took samples of lead paint. Lead paint is everywhere, but the elements are assisting us greatly, because as you can see by way of the photograph, the lead paint is peeling off the walls. So the actual stripping of the lead will not be just as a big a job, again, as we anticipated. What I should say that in the United States, they really are very strict on how you deal with lead at work. And all lead has to be stripped from a building the same way as any other known hazardous material, for instance, asbestos. So there is big business in abatement of both asbestos and lead. The shape of the building, the Walker Building, is an E-shaped building. The reason why buildings of this nature, hospitals and the like, have this form of floor plan is to allow ventilation to get into both sides of the building from any one direction, so to speak, because in the days that they were built, no air conditioning. And as you can appreciate, in Georgia, in the summertime, it is hot. The red line you see going through the drawing here is where we propose to separate the front section of the building from the rear. All of the rear section of the building will be totally demolished. And the bricks will be recycled. The concrete from the floors will be crushed and recycled on the job site. The bricks, we intend to reuse them as a cladding for the rebuild. This is just a computer simulation of what we're intending to do. You'll see the towers of the facade retention system connected to horizontal wailings. The separation line is along a corridor, and we are actually leaving about 5 meters of the building behind the facade, which will assist and cut back on the number of facade retention components that we will actually need. This is just a quick sample of recovered bricks. I built this little panel myself just to demonstrate that these bricks are suitable for cladding. They're not going to be used as load bearing ever again. They will just be a cladding onto what is proposed to be a timber framed construction for the new building. Again, the sample brick panel. Sorry, go back here. This is what is basically proposed. Now, we've shown a flat roof here on the new build, but there will be a mansard style roof. This was in advance of discussing what the actual end product would look like. So we have the retained facade with a construction behind it. This should actually move. Not sure why it's not moving. I don't know if Martin, can you help me? Yeah, thank you. There we go, great. Yeah, so what you see is the separation line again shown and the new build section at the back. The flat roof will not be the case, it will be a mansard roof. The building will be constructed as a green building. It will have all the additional insulation requirements. We will have solar panels built in situ on the roof. And for that, in America, there are great incentives by way of grants to assist in new construction. So that's the route that this building will become a green building. This building will become a center for excellence for nursing. The Central Georgia University is going to be involved with us in occupying either all or part of this building for the training of specialized nursing. So it's still hospital-related work. I should say to you that the entire site is owned by the state of Georgia. There has been a new central state redevelopment authority formed with a board of directors made up of local business people, doctors, and so on. And it's this particular board who are heading up this entire project. To make it happen, obviously, we are looking to raise funds. I was in Washington, D.C. Just a couple of weeks ago on Capitol Hill in the corridors of power, meeting representatives of congressmen, and we are very hopeful that as the funding comes through, that we will be able to get a start on site on the Walker building early next year. This is just a timeline program that's been developed. You've seen them, you know what they're all about, from a start to finish basis, to give not so much ourselves, it's more to demonstrate to people like funders and so on and so forth that we are approaching this job in a responsible manner. Again, all the various phases of how you go about a job like this. We are very excited that the response so far from all of the various agencies that we have approached It's good. They are being very supportive. And whilst in the United States, as we heard earlier, the economy is bad, the same as everywhere else, I have noticed that with our involvement in business, in the demolition business, that there is work. We have been kept going. The company that we have an interest in is based in Baltimore, and they have never been idle. Right at this moment in time, of course, they are up on the North Delaware shores, helping cleaning up the mess after Hurricane Sandy. So it's an ill wind, but it's been all hands on deck, and we're working up there at the moment. Basically, our package that we're putting together for the Walker Building is not just a package that will be funded by federal and state money and some private enterprise. It won't just provide a functional building. Obviously, we will restore a Milledgeville historic brick facade. We will create employment. We will include an education and skills training program for the employees. And how we're going to work this out is that the contractors, if you are a plumbing contractor involved in this project, and if your value of your contract is $1 million, we would expect you as a contractor to take on at least 2 or 3 apprentices for that value of contract. Now, the apprentices will work on site for 3 days, and you as a contractor will have to pay them, and this will be a condition of the contract. The other 2 days of the 5-day week, the apprentices will attend the local technical school, and this would be to advance their skills. So in other words, for the length of the contract, it's a fast-track skills training program, and this is something that I've put together with the local educators, and we are looking forward to getting this whole thing started. I should tell you that Milledgeville has a 17% unemployment rate. They have lost a couple of major industries, and there's a lot of skilled people out there. So the apprentices may not necessarily be 16, 17, 18-year-olds. We're looking at guys that might be, and women of course, that may be very much older. But it's a way of trying to get people back into employment. We're going to recycle as much of the material as we can. And of course, with the activity in the area, again, we are hoping that this will promote commerce in and around Milledgeville. In the contract also, we are encouraging local contractors. We are looking at the legal aspects of how we can give the local contractors an incentive. In other words, maybe a 5 to 10% start on contractors outside of Baldwin County, where Milledgeville is located. So, you know, what I've told the people of Milledgeville, you know, we have a duty to care. Nothing is going to happen unless we show some form of responsibility towards helping get this whole project off the ground. And I've got to tell you that the whole project has been driven to date by the 20,000 strong population of Milledgeville, who are all positive about this. There is no negatives. Everybody has been very positive, and that has been very welcomed. Just a few photographs of some of the other buildings. Again, substantial buildings that they're looking for to do. May not all be facade retention, but they're looking to refurbish them. The main thing that we're going to be focusing on is they are all very large buildings. They are all thousands of square feet. And we're going to reduce the floor plans of each of the buildings to make them more attractive and make them more economical. As I say, each of the buildings will become a green building. We are looking at waste to heat projects for the actual area. We're looking at community solar power farms, and we're looking at obviously solar power on the buildings themselves. So we'll make them as attractive as we possibly can to incoming people. This is a church that has been worked on and brought back to really tremendous condition. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is story about Milledgeville, my new hometown. If you care to invest, I'll be pleased to take your checks. And I thank you very much for your time and putting up with my croaky voice. Thank you.